right. I'm gonna let everyone in and then mute you guys. Feel free to
Meal. Yeah.
unmute whenever you want.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I think we're about all in here. All right. Cool. So I think we're all about in here. So everyone can see hopefully in the chat there, Evan posted both the tasting order and the PDF for the outturn sheet. I got a new face in the building. You guys not used to me doing this, but Evan's just I don't know. He's out with his kids taking care of some stuff, and so you get to deal with my handsome mug for the night. Um, I'm sure I know most of you guys. I know there's a heck of a lot of familiar names here, but anyone who might be either new or just don't know who I am, I'm Sean. I'm the co-manager with Evan at the shop there, and yeah, also a whiskey fan. But to be perfectly honest, this is the first time I've ever done an outturn. So welcome to the February outturn for 2024. Um, I've got a couple. I'm sure you already know Sammy, my co-host there, and then Cam. I think you probably take care of a lot of these as well, right?
Yeah, I
So,
have been a part of it.
yeah, I'm one or two, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you happen to like what I do a little bit better than Evan, then feel free to let him know and rub it in his face, and maybe I can make some at the very least a couple of cameos in future ones, and if not, I'll just muscle in it, muscle him out of the way. Um, so I have all my drams poured. I hope you guys too do too. I figure we'll just go through it the same way we do it in the store. I'm not sure if Evan ever does it in any different way, but it's not his party tonight, so I'm just gonna snap right into it. I guess we will do it in the same way as usual, though, when it's like I'll go through it twice, once to kind of analyze them, and a second time to like with a big reveal. Please be chatty in the chat because I love to read people's comments and questions, and I want to hear what you guys have to think about them too. Anyways, I'm going
So
to start off.
if
Yeah.
any if anybody doesn't know what the lineup is, we did post it in the chat. So you can just open up the chat box and that'll tell you what the lineup is if you don't have it.
Yeah, I guess so. It might
Or
be a little
or
bit
the
harder.
order.
Yeah, yeah. It might be a little bit harder on if you're on a phone. I know I've had to do it once and I couldn't and I just gave up because having to switch between like windows on a phone was just not fun. But hopefully everyone's able to do that. Um, yeah. All right. So we're gonna start with the old timey sippin' gin, sippin' with an apostrophe, just like you'd say it. This this might sound familiar, the name. I will be like honest off the bat. This is a re-pour for us. It just something that we feel that maybe deserved a second go around because it was just so excellent. So having said that, you might know where this is from already, but I'm not going to assume that everybody does. So I'm still not going to share it quite yet. But on the nose, I mean, obviously that's not whiskey, right? Um, so a little bit of information from this. It is from Scotland. It's not like, I mean, it looks like almost white spirit, but it actually does spend some time in an ex-bourbon barrel. I'm not entirely certain how long, but just by the color, I would imagine it's, less than a year easily. Like this is not what I would call a barrel rested gin. However, different people are going to call it different things. It's also done at 49.3%. And even by the nose, it is major threads of a very like gin botanical bill there. Huge juniper.
Lots of lemon and lime on it.
Yeah, big hit of coriander as well. Yeah, you're right. Tons of lime, like more so lime than lemon even.
Yeah.
Mm, very cool. I used to do the gin tastings at the shop, and I kind of fell out of love with gin in general when I started getting into different spirits, but I used to like it quite a bit. I used to be kind of really be all over it and geek out a little bit on all the different kinds of things that you can do with it. Because I always felt like gin is like the like the painter's canvas of the spirit world, where you can literally just start with a very clean blank slate and layer any flavor that you want that happens to be able to be extracted by ethanol. More lemon popping up on the palate though, for sure.
Yeah.
And even more of that
The potpourri you
coriander
were talking
too.
about.
Mm.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that is
It's really
absolutely
good.
low. Yeah,
I'm surprised it didn't do as well. Like, you have to revisit it to show it a little more love. It's
it,
really
it
good.
it's really leaning into like citrus and spice, like that coriander, that toast might even be toasted coriander. It is just so in your face, like it's actually almost saturating. And aside from that, I think the like the mouthfeel, the spirit. I mean, if I were to blind it, which I'm not blinding because I know a little bit more about it, but if I were to blind it, there's no way I would peg this as like a London Dry style, like a classic London Dry. Like this is for sure like a malt-based double distilled style where it has got a little bit of body underneath it. Mm. Any comments on this one from the tasters?
Yeah. No, I'm really enjoying it. I added a little water. There's a note in the tasting notes about what reduction was, so I was curious to add a little water to it.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bit of a I shouldn't say I'm a purist because I don't like that term, but I rarely add water to things unless it's like a bourbon that happens to be 68% or something like that. Um, and I don't have any water on me, so I guess I can't do that right now. At least not like, cold sparkling water, which is all I have. Hmm,
I
limes.
thought the water no, it got rid of the lime for me.
Hmm, interesting. Hmm,
The the coriander, the potpourri taste comes out a lot more with a little bit of water.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Tasting notes also mention cinnamon bark, cucumber peel. I'm not sure if I get that kind of spice on it, but oh, that's with the water, so maybe you get that. Mm,
Maybe a
love that.
little bit of cinnamon.
Yeah, love that. But I'm also going to start to
It's
dip into the second one, I think, here in a second.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah, totally. Mm, fresh bourbon barrel malt, honeyed grains, or lighter orchard fruit, apple and pear. So what I can tell you about, ooh, actually, there is a little bit of wine-like note in there too, white grape. That's cool. And for good reason. So what I can tell you about this, so the name, Extravagance Meets Timeless Elegance. Uh, I'm one to never assume that it's going to taste like what it names because everyone gets something different on these from these panels. But this guy is 16 years old, so it's kind of fun. We got quite a few over 10-year-old whiskeys here in this tasting. So 16 years old. It has 13 years in ex bourbon and then 3 years in ex Sauterne Barrique. So with 3 years, I wouldn't call it a finish. That's more of a secondary maturation, honestly. Like 3 years is quite long. Um, but pretty cool to have. Like I'm always intrigued about Sauternes casks. I always have to try them. What I do find, like my rule, not rule of thumb, I'm not going to call it a rule of thumb, but personally, what I find is that Sauterne almost always works well with peat, but it's a little bit more of a wild card with unpeated malt. So we'll see how this goes. But so far the nose is like pretty awesome, like and really up my alley. ABV on it's 57.4. Mm, mm, mm. I'm not gonna spit this one. I actually like it a lot. I'm gonna drink this one. So this is okay. So first of all, excellent malt to start off with. Like this is exactly what I want with something to begin. It's not. It feels lightly spirit driven. It's not too malty, like not too like sweet in its malt. It maintains a bit of that age. It shows like that it's got that, pushing past 10 years, and in this case, past 15 years. Will Christie, is Sauterne a type of port or sherry or spirit of its own? Sauternes is a sweet French dessert wine from the Bordeaux region. It's typically made out of the Semillon grape, and it's probably, I would call it like in that top three most famous of dessert wines. I would probably say like you have like port, ice wine, and Sauternes, kind of like taking those three spots. Um, it's they I can't remember if they barrel age it or not, but there's certain like they're not as sweet as ice wine, but they're definitely sweeter than uh oh, sorry. So this I just caught Mike saying we don't actually do the age until after. Okay, I'll save it for the rest of for the ages. But anyways, but it is a little sweeter than port. And some of the with that kind of sweetness on it, you can actually well, it's going to be hard to find, but you can get bottles of Sauternes from decades and decades ago. In fact, I've heard that there might be a couple of restaurants that you can probably find small bottles of one of the more famous producers called Chateau d'Yquem that's from the 1800s, like the mid 1800s, which is just bonkers. The bottle is like the wine's typically like kind of similar in color to this, maybe a little bit darker, but as it sits in bottle, it starts getting really brown and like eventually like quite red. So when you see these old bottles, like it's actually it looks almost like a, I don't know, closer to like a tawny port, I suppose. I quite like them, but although I don't have a big sweet tooth, so I don't have them that often. Mm.
I was expecting this to be sweeter than it is, and it just I'm not getting that.
Oh
Well,
man.
it's a second fill barrel, so I don't think it's going to be that sweet.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but so, I guess maybe I'm just used to some like some of the past outturns that I've gone through when we've had a lot of things that were in that like 7 to 11 year, where that maltiness comes through so much more with a little less barrel interaction. But yeah, that's a good call, Sammy. Hmm, I'm digging it. I'm loving the like I said, that it's just like that slightly sweet wine combined with that malt is just hitting it home for me. Oh, I love it.
I added a couple drops of water, and I like it better with water,
Oh, fun.
surprisingly.
What do they say with
It,
water on there?
well,
Summer delight.
it's you get, yeah, I think a little more of that sweetness, like tutti frutti ice cream they're saying, and
Passion fruit, so something tropical. Ooh, perfect. I love tropical fruits
yeah,
and whiskey. It's like
yeah.
that chasing the dragon. You just want it all the time. Coconut milkshake, that's fun too. Cool. All right. I'm gonna move on here to dram number three. We have so with this one, okay, well, so you'll have to forgive me if like maybe I don't know what I'm not supposed to reveal, so I will go a little bit more sparingly. This is we've had a few of their of the society's blended malt experiments that they've had in the past, where they're kind of putting multiple things together. Um, I will say this is something like that. I think this is going to be kind of a fun one in my opinion. It's hitting in at 56.7%. And what was it called again? Whiskey Bubba. When I first read that name, I figured it was like a play on like having whiskey in your bottle and you're like the baby who just wants your Bubba of whiskey, but I'm not really sure if that's what it is. It might be something completely different. That's an interesting nose. Not really sure what to,
Yeah, I'm getting lots of honey on the nose.
but not just straight up honey. It's almost like a darker, richer honey, like a Manuka or something.
Hmm.
There's some cool fruity notes on there coming up too, like maybe like a little banana on there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty tropical.
It seems pretty tropical. Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's kind of cool too. This is like a that's like a lot of fruit on the back end there, but
Hmm.
so more of the banana I was talking about, but it's also kind of leaning a little bit more into like I don't know, like a fruit cup, like a pineapple heavy fruit cup. Pretty creamy too, though. The texture's like
Yeah, very
mm,
creamy. I'm surprised they bottled this at 58. Usually these fatted malts or whatever you want to call it are done at 50%.
oh,
So I'm
right. The
surprised.
bottle at 50. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm surprised it's 58. I like the 58.
Mm,
Well, I thought like the panel said like it tastes better at 58 compared to 50. That's why they bought it at 58.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I'm inclined to listen to the panel. What can you say? I mean,
Well, and also this is mature in a French oak.
right. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is true.
And the French oak actually mature, the rum. So it was a rum.
Well, I was gonna ask if anyone maybe got that, but a little after with the fact. But that's okay, Sammy.
Yeah.
It is in the on the sheet
Is
there.
it really? Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
No, you're right. I can say that because everyone
yeah,
can read it. Okay. So having said that, so it's French oak, Jamaican rum, matured in the Cognac region of France. Does anybody have a guess as to where that cask might have come from, like who that cask belonged to, and or what distillery that rum might have come from? The distillery is probably a choice of two, and the bottler is almost 100% a choice of one. I'll give you just like 2 seconds if anyone wants to. We'll Bijan from Plantation, and we'll see. You're kind of close. Hmm. It's funny because like on the spirit itself, like on the rum spirit, I would normally get a heavy dose of cognac, but that's long lost on here. I'm not really feeling anything like that on here. All right, I've given you long enough. So yeah, so Will is correct when he said the plantation company, although they don't call it plantation anymore. They recently changed their name because of the obvious negative connotations for the word plantation. They now called it Planteray, Planteray, which I I don't know, whatever. I can't say that I like it, but I guess it's a change. It probably means very similar. But that company Plantation, so that's Maison Ferrand, which is a cognac producer, and they own partial stakes in the parent company of the Long Pond Distillery and the Clarendon Distillery in Jamaica. So it'll be one of those two. I'm not really sure which one. I think you'd be hard pressed to really pick one of the over the other. But yeah, that's where we're getting it from. So they mature all of their rums in the Cognac region in France. Hmm.
I added water to this too, and it didn't hurt it.
Hmm. When I read what it was going to be, I do have to admit that I was secretly hoping it was going to be like that. Like the finish is going to be a little closer to that. What was it? The Doc Swinson, the funky drummer that we had, that rye. It was American rye that was matured in Jamaican rum, and that had that on the finish. It exhibited just so much of that fruity estery tone that it was just bonkers. Hmm, awesome. I like that one. You know what?
Yeah,
I'm
I did
actually
too.
so I should say I'm also I don't know if any of those vatted malts, well, you can't say vatted malts, sorry, blended malts. Um, I I'm I will reluctantly say I'm not always a fan of them, and it's not because of like the concept of them being heresy, which Rob and Kelly mentioned in their notes to me or into to Evan, sorry. But it I will say that this is probably one of the best I've had. This one, and maybe way back in the day, there was the Peat Fairy that I really enjoyed too. That one was really nice as well. But this one I think might kind of take the cake, honestly. Hmm, cool. Let's keep going. So number four, entitled Full Frontal Dichotomy, which is a pretty excellent name. Mm. So if you hold up the color, I'm sure you can tell that there's probably uh, some non-bourbon maturation in there, maybe like a little bit of fruit. So this also spends a little bit of time in an Oloroso hogshead. The hogshead itself is made of Spanish oak, which is a little bit of a departure compared to what we see. We see a lot of American oak, but nowadays, yeah. So nowadays, things like Spanish oak, I guess it's just not. I don't know. It's not as common. Although Andrew did mention to me the other day that historically the sherry transfer casks that were coming from Spain back in the 90s and prior were all American oak because it was a little harder, thicker staves, and it allowed the sherry to kind of survive the journey, I suppose. So I guess if you ever want like kind of a neat fact I didn't really know. So I guess like the more authentic sherry casks from back in the day were indeed American oak. Ooh, this one's got a pretty that char from that ex bourbon is definitely on there. I wouldn't call it
I
like
don't
bursting
always.
with. Hmm.
I was going to say I don't always agree with the tasty notes, but I think they got a pretty good here. Toffee apples, maple syrup.
Toasted
Yeah,
pine for
I'm
sure. I'm not sure if I get
yeah,
Calvados
I'm
up
getting
there, but
all that.
hmm.
The Christmas cake on the palate. Yeah, I think
Maybe
they did a
some
good
of the
job with this
old,
one.
yeah, some of the older age covered, not the young.
Yeah, that's fair. When some of like the fresher apple notes have started faded away, I'm getting
Oh,
uh a lot more spice on this from the sherry rather than fruit, at least personally.
mhm.
Like definitely that typical clove and baking spice and that not
I'm afraid to add water to this one.
it's actually quite chocolatey. I'm getting like some really cool cocoa nib notes on there. Maybe it's because it's the fourth dram, but I'm finding that 56% quite well hidden. Like it doesn't really hit the palate with the texture of something at 56. It's actually got some thickness to it that kind of covers it up.
Okay, I did not like water in this one.
Oh,
Kind of
no.
killed it for me.
Can't oh that's
So don't
unfortunate
add
because you can't
water.
take it out now.
No.
We need to sell these with two drams, one that you can put water in and one that you can keep naked.
I like that.
Note for later.
Or put a heat gun to it.
Sorry?
Put a heat gun to it, warming up for a little while to evaporate, some of the water.
You take a heat
Evan,
gun to
Evan
it,
always said
Sammy.
Evan always said if you let it sit for a while, it'll revert back to the way it was, even if you add the water.
Or at least it'll intermingle and kind of mellow all out. Like I don't know how it's done in the whiskey industry, but when they're watering down, like I mentioned, like last night the rum tasting, that one, I think it was the Guatemala distillery. They do no, it was the Agricole distillery, the JM. They water it down so slowly that like they take their batch, they add like a tiny portion of their spring water, and then they let it sit for 2 weeks and then they let it kind of intermingle and relax and do like any reactions that are going to happen. They let them settle down, taste it, add a bit more water, do it again until it gets to either bottling strength or casking strength. It's pretty cool concept. But I guess that's something maybe I should ask the next distillery I visit, or whenever that's going to be. Whenever Andrew decides to send me overseas again, I guess.
I like
Okay.
that one.
Yeah, it was cool. It's nice. I'm definitely like more inclined to enjoy bourbon casks nowadays, but I like a good sherry dram for sure, and I won't shake a fist at it by any stretch. Okay, I'm gonna keep going on here and taste Bull and Bear. Bull and Bear. So this guy, does it say what notes can I? Okay, it doesn't give too much info for you guys. So okay.
First, first filled barrel, number two char.
Number two char, first fill barrel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Evan's got a good tip there. He only pours half of his sample in the glass. Then again, at the same time, like I like them to have a little bit of air, and so it's kind of a one or the other, right?
Or we can have like two set of tasting glasses.
Mm, yeah. You see, that's what I would be doing. Ooh.
This one
Oh, that
almost the nose on this is almost, closer to the number one than anything else in the lineup.
like the gin or number two?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
like the
wow,
gin.
cool.
Like I'm getting a little bit of lime on it.
Honestly, that like there's just so much American oak on here. It's kind of hard to tease out what the whiskey, the spirit itself is going to do. It smells like it's going to be like kind of almost it's got like almost like acidic like turpentine almost like an old fashioned or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, Evan says yeah, citric for sure. Like on the nose, yeah, citric absolutely on the nose. I was getting even more on the palate when I
Yeah,
took that sip. It really bursts a lot of citrus fruit, which I really enjoyed.
yeah, it's very, very botanical on the palate too.
Mm, very cool. Yeah, orange, lemon, like
Yeah,
grilled lemon. Sorry,
for
go
me,
ahead,
kind
Sammy.
of remind me of like Armagnac.
Yeah, interesting. That's a neat note. I wonder what. Yeah, I wonder what makes it.
Mhm.
Hmm,
Yeah, I can see that, Sammy.
oof, big like
What's the
finish on like
ABV?
marmalade on toast.
All right, well, I'll add water to this one.
Cool. Oh man, you're braver than I.
Oh, water brings out the citrus and the floral botanical notes.
Man, that's sticky on the palate too. You're getting some like wood tannin and hmm,
Yeah, if I didn't know better, I would think this was gin.
interesting. Very interesting. Oh, I wonder if these guys distill a gin and they do then make the same mistake that well, I shouldn't say mistake, but like a mistake like someone like Still Austin, for example, when they uh like their cask strength bourbons kind of tasted like their gin. I think Duke Glass did some of that too, and I was like some of their whiskeys were a little gin heavy for me too. All right, can you continue on with number six? All right, now we're getting into some some Smoky Town. Now, even though I know the back end details, this does kind of nose like a lightly younger peated malt, but it's got that cool like I don't know if I would peg it as like straight up mainland peat. Like I definitely get like a tiny little bit of dung on there, but it's not like dung in the way that you might get off of like a Springbank or a Ben Romick. It's maybe a little bit fresher, maybe.
Yeah, I'm getting that too. Now that you said it.
Slightly grassy. That's kind of cool. That's fun. I like that. Honestly, Mike, like I hate to say it. I mean, it's not what I'm looking for, but I've recently kind of started to really appreciate that farmy mainland peak character. We used to have an Ardmore in the store that was that was like straight up all it was. It was just dung. It was a single malt of Scotland one from like a year ago, year and a half ago, or maybe a year ago, and it was oh man, it was like literally like all it was, and I actually kind of really liked it. Yeah, Will, you're asking if it's more like yeah, the kind of that barnyard. That's kind of where I'm going. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of that hay, or maybe like yeah, like hor or cow dung where it's mostly like grass, right? Like it's yeah. Oh yeah, I mentioned 61%. Yeah, I guess I didn't really notice that. Interesting.
Doesn't taste like 61.
Hmm.
I like the palate much better than the nose, actually. Get a
Oh,
little
cool.
like menthol or antiseptic on it.
Yeah, yeah. A little bit kind of chocolatey as well. As did I get that on the last? No, that was 2 grams ago. Yeah. Let's see what kind of cask this was. No. Oh, just second fill ex bourbon. All right, so nothing too fancy on this. This is just like a nicely mature, well, nicely bare cask matured malt.
You see the tasting note? They say don't hold it too long on your tongue unless you have a prosthetic
A
tongue. I didn't know if that was a real thing or not.
hmm, I actually don't know either. Hmm. There's a little bit of a um, kind of like a pool water, like a feral, slightly like this leads a little bit into some mezcal notes I've had in the past, but it does kind of remind. It's a little reptilian, like it's a little bit like the reptile house in a zoo. That might be that farminess poking out on the palate.
Oh, water changes it on the nose. More barbecue, like burnt popcorn with water.
Hmm. I think that's also some things that I get on more of that mainland Pete is it often does lean a little bit more into that like barbecued meats kind of note too, which is I'm not really sure what does that, but definitely something that kind of stands out to me. Hmm. Cool. All right, gonna lead to the
The,
last one
the
here.
water
Oh,
kind
sorry.
of mellowed the peat a little bit too.
Oh, fun. Actually, it's I'm not sure if it's like attributed to like age or anything like that, but it's so much like stepping into the still house. over there, like more so than almost any other dram I've had in at least recent memory. It's
Is
really
this the
takes me.
last one you're talking about?
No, that was the second last one. I just
No,
revisited on the nose. Like it's really like, oh man, it kind of brings me back. Like that's a that's neat.
it is.
Ooh. Oh, this last one's kind of cool. So if you haven't read the notes for this last one, Kelly did say make sure to read it and listen to the instructions. Oh, nice. Oh wow, this one feels like it's got more maturity to it, but it might also be like might be cask. That peat's on there quite nicely, but it's kind of a mellow. It's not it's not the heaviest peated whiskey I've had. It's well integrated and it's not like overly smoky, more of like more just kind of phenolic. Beautiful color on it too. Nice and dark.
Well, what exactly is the notes instructing you to do?
It says return the bottles back to SMWS Canada because you do not like it. I repeat, you do not like it.
Well, well, the nose is great.
The palate, like honestly, the palate even kind of defies like a slightly more mature malt than I would expect. Nicely integrated, like well, whatever cask is on there is integrated quite nicely. You definitely get a little bit of those like pruny fruits, a little bit of like that those like ginger molasses cookie. Mm. But it's oily as well. Holy, it's another like resinous palate sticker. Like mm.
So they want you
Yeah,
to
yeah,
return it
yeah,
because it's so good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Evan said it's comfortable in its immaturity, like him. He's like, you know what? I like comfortable in their immaturity, like everyone who's pretending to be an adult while secretly not understanding what the word means, like we all do, right? Mm. That's a that's a pretty cool dram. I like that one. Yeah, I'm
It
not.
is. I'm
I
I'm not adding water to this one.
there is like three or there's like three drams in here that I'm like pretty impressed with. I'm not gonna say what it is, but there's definitely like a few standouts here. All right. Want to go through them again and give a little bit of a reveal? Yeah, I gotta maybe see if I can wash some of that stickiness off my palate. All right. So for the first guy here, um, I mentioned yeah. So Old Timey Sip and Jam. You already know the name. We already
Hey,
got.
Evan.
Hey, dude.
Hey guys,
We got
things
everything
are
else about
now
it.
taken care of, so I can join in now.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. Good, good, good. It's like get to bed already. Jeez, I got drinks to drink.
So Evan, you
Um,
you did add water to the last one. I see, and it
Yeah,
didn't kill
yeah,
it, but
I do agree. It's better without. Uh, yeah, it didn't need it. I thought it was awesome without. With it, it was fine, but it wasn't as good.
mm, that's fair. So does anyone in the chat remember what that first one where it was from or anything about it? That's fair. Okay, so this one is from one of one of them big city distilleries where those highfalutin city folk live. It is from a distillery that's pretty close to the shop and the owner the SMWS Canada. So this is from Edinburgh Distillery, right there in the heart of Edinburgh in Holyrood Park. Sorry, did I say Edinburgh Distillery? Holyrood Distillery. Sorry, my bad. Um, I when I was there in late 2022 and I was talking with their we kind of going through some of their stuff, and they were mentioning that like they really kind of tried to streamline their gin recipes and how they were doing things, where to the point where they were only going to use three things and all of their gins, but they were going to do different things with it. And those three things were going to be juniper, coriander, and beeswax. And they were going to kind of like maybe they'll like toast the coriander, or maybe they'll caramelize the beeswax or something to that extent in each one. Now, this one was bottled in 2020, and I don't know if when they started doing that. So I can't imagine, like there's so much citrus on here that I can't imagine it was in like before that, but they're probably not going to make a lot of gins like this anymore. Um, by their own admission, he said he just didn't want to do it. They wanted to really kind of explore within the confines of what he could do with the gin with those three botanicals. So, I mean, I look forward to, I'm sure the society will get more from that vein, but I just don't know when we're going to see it. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of
to me
fun.
there seems to be a little bit of a fennel note in there. And I know they did use fennel on some of their stuff previously.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Yeah, yeah. You know what? I missed that the first time around, but that's a good call.
Cask number on this one, if anybody didn't catch it, is GN 6.2.
Yeah, and just to jump in on this one, it might have been talked about, or you guys might already be aware of this, but we do have a sale coming on this weekend. It'll likely be starting on Friday. There will be some society bottles on it, and the reason that we chose to include this as a seventh bottle and a six bottle lineup is this is one of the bottles on sale. Originally from the August of 2013 outturn, and it's going to be 20% off. I already made that sale price live, so if anybody was looking for a bottle of this, it is on sale for $94.39 now, and will remain that until or through the weekend. So you can order away if you like.
So which outturn? I think you said 2013, but I don't think it was that long ago.
Yeah, sorry, August of 2023. Pardon me.
There we go. Hmm. That one, honestly, I I wouldn't even, I don't personally, I wouldn't think about even adding water to that. I don't really need soda with it or anything. It's got just enough residual sweetness on the underlying spirit that like, it is exactly what it says it is. Like, it's a nice sipping gin. And yeah, I think I could just nurse that. Maybe, or, I mean, maybe, maybe you put an ice cube in it if you feel so inclined, but you might just as easily chill the bottle down a little bit. Very
Yeah, I
cool. I
agree.
enjoy
It's
that.
got everything I hated about gin up until COVID. And then COVID made me come around on it. But like you get the nice juniper hit and the spiciness to it, but it's got these cool cooling notes and the fennel and a little bit of citrus in there as well. And it's just really nicely well-rounded and drinks really nicely on its own.
I heard self-medicating during COVID was not recommended, but that's all right.
Yeah, everybody did it anyways. Yeah.
All right, jump over to the second one. Extravagance meets timeless elegance. This is a distillery that I've been trying to dive into a little bit more because it's I wouldn't say it's getting buzz, but for some people who are trying to find maybe replacements or alternatives to some distilleries that they love that they can't get quite as much of. Like for example, um, like maybe like Klein Leash, or maybe you're not getting enough like Manic More or anything like that. Sometimes this one is like it's one that I always have to try just in case. And I gotta be honest, like this is one that's really kind of turned my head like in terms of quality. Um, it is it's the name is also the name of a town, and it's probably around a glen of some sort in the Speyside region. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of some. Yeah, yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, absolutely. It's close to Benriach, Longmorn, and Manickmore. If anyone has any guesses on that.
Yeah, I think Ben Romick's not too far away too.
Well, fair, yeah. I was looking more like the immediates, but yeah, I guess everything's
Mhm.
kind of close in that region, to be honest. So this guy's from the Glen Elgin distillery.
Cask number is 85.73.
Yeah.
Have
And
we
I
had
already
a
gave,
lot of Glen Elgins in the past? Do you remember,
really,
Evan or Sean?
They come up every now and then, not as often as I wish they would. Uh, I agree with Sean. It's for me, it's a distillery that I've kind of been paying a bit more attention to, because it does come into those kind of unheralded Diageo distilleries where other stuff like Clynelish gets all the love, but it does have some of that waxy character sometimes, and tends to have a really nice grain character and a good robustness and a touch of floral notes at the same time along when it comes into ex-bourbon barrels. This Sauternes cask is really cool. Second fill makes it a little bit more of a deft touch, which I think works too.
yeah, I'm glad that it's
Uh,
not 100% matured in that. Yeah.
it is 16 years old. Anybody
Mhm.
didn't know that?
That's the
There's
one
a
that I
line on the
did.
bottom.
That's the one I did reveal.
There's a blank on the bottom. Do you know what that is, Evan? Following blank years in an
Yeah, so
ex-bourbon
it's
hogshead.
following 13 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead, we transferred this whiskey to a second fill, Sauternes Brut.
And as we go through the lineups tonight too, you might, at least with a couple of these, you'll see just a tiny bit of a trend with, well, three of them, I think, with we're not really looking at a lot of finishes on this in this outturn, which is pretty cool. And I kind of, and it starts to make me wonder a little bit about like maybe their practices that many years ago, maybe they're trying to figure out things to do and they're trying to, re-rack things. And we're starting to see some of the fruits of that effort now.
Mhm.
Hmm. I love that dram. Yeah, that is a cracker for me.
Yeah, I totally
Uh,
agree. Like it's got everything you want from ex-bourbon,
mhm,
and the Sauternes doesn't overpower it. It just kind of tweaks it a little and brings on the sort of like a slight syrupy citrus without being over the top.
mhm. Uh, Evan, do you give the pricing during this run through, or do you go to the very end?
Uh,
No,
Pricing this run through
This run through. Okay. So this
on
guy
the
is,
second, yeah.
yeah. Okay. So this 216.99 for this guy. 16 years old, Speyside, dual cask maturation. Excellent. Love it. Okay. Head to number three. So there's already revealed what kind of cask it was, that it was a blended malt. They did not disclose where it was from, I don't know if they ever have, to be honest with you. At least none that I remember. Maybe Evan remembers otherwise, but
they
No, I don't think they
the
ever have with the Heresy range.
yeah.
I
They do
think the
say
note.
Speyside. Yeah.
Yeah, Speyside.
Do they actually call it the Heresy range?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought that was just a Kelly, like a Kelly term, a Robin Kelly term. Okay, so we already know what kind of cask it's into. I guess that's really all there really is to it. There's not much more than that.
I think it's a
I
12-year-old.
Oh yeah, I guess I
I
didn't
think
say 12 years old this time. Yeah, so
Yeah.
12 years old. Yeah. Makes me
And
wonder if they just grabbed a bunch of 12-year-olds to put together, or if they started this in advance a while ago and it was more like well, does it say how many bottles were in that one?
2016.
Oh, so yeah, so this is not a single, like, yeah, right. So
No.
they took a bunch like 12 plus year olds, right? That's fair.
Yeah, so it was created using Speyside whiskeys from ex-bourbon hogsheads and ex-rum French oak barriques, and was
So
bottled at
right.
58.6.
So they bought several French oak rum barriques then, not just the one to use this. So they did have a design in mind, uh, like prior to making this, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I do kind of wish they'd say which numbers went into it because it'd be cool to see more of the like get an idea of the DNA on the geek side of things. But
I agree.
um,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a pretty neat whiskey, and I love how the society, even in their heresy range, is committing heresy by. You guys talked about it how they usually bottle these at 50%, but this one's at 58.6. The society just seems to create rules so that they can break them themselves, which is I'm okay with.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, they themselves, like, I guess they kind of felt at some point that they needed to kind of expand what they were doing and, create
Mm.
their own heresy and whatnot. But yeah, yeah. I mean, do what they want, either like it or not.
I think you said earlier, Sean, that you think this is the best one that you've tasted from their blended malt.
Yeah,
I tend to agree with that.
yeah. It's
It
quite
does
nice.
have it has a great pineapple note right now on the nose and palate for me.
Yeah, like when it first poured, it was a bit more banana forward, but now like the pineapple kind of takes more of that forefront. Hmm. So this
Yeah.
guy is 160.99. Quite well done. Quite affordable for what that is, I think. That's excellent. Good age, good barrel, good strength. Pretty happy with that. All right. And head on to number 4, full frontal dichotomy. So this is a favorite distillery of the store. Uh, I we're not too long ago we were over there in the space side. This one is a couple of firths to the west of the space side region. If you're in your uh, geography, you might kind of know in the region there. But this is from Tianinic, number being 39.275, right there in the Highlands. And this
Man,
guy, oh yeah,
I think we've had a sherry cask finish Tianinic, and I can't remember the name. I think it was last year around February or March, but it was a little bit denser, but it did have the dichotomy that was going on here. And both of them I remember on the nose, and I'm getting it on this one now. Celery salt, big time, the second time around.
now, was this okay? So they did mention that this is a sister cask to the 39.196 called Enriched Geranium, which I will admit I do not remember whatsoever. That was from
Uh,
2021.
I'm just going to cut in. According to the whiskey codes, 39 is a linkwood.
Oh, shoot. I gave you guys the wrong information. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Th-
I'm only
39
reading what
dot
I'm given.
Yeah.
39.7.39.275. 39 is a linkwood.
Oh, fair.
That
Forget what I said about
that
the
makes more
geography.
sense. Yeah.
Still though, honestly, still a favorite. Like I
Hmm.
most of the linkwoods I have are usually in bourbon, and I quite like it that way. But pretty happy with this one as well. So this guy, we never mentioned age. This guy is 16 years old. We have 13 years in ex-bourbon, and then we have 3 years in Oloroso Hogshead made with Spanish oak.
I think
I
that's pretty
really dig that.
characteristic of a linkwood,
Yeah. I dig that
the
celery
flavors.
salt note that's coming off right now.
Cool.
Their spirit's supposed to be typically so fruity. I'm not like this. I think the sherry is kind of covering it up, but it's definitely a barrel forward dram. So the other nice thing about this one, I guess, is that we've got a handful of things that got a little bit of age on it.
Mhm.
So that's our second 16-year-old. And as I mentioned, the second time that we're seeing like a proper secondary maturation and not just a finish at 3 years. So for those curious as well, this guy is 260. Thanks for cutting in with that, Cam. You're a lifesaver there. Hmm. All right, I'm gonna head to number 5. Hmm. A lot more, like caramel toffee and confectionery notes are coming off now that it's kind of sitting there. that crazy this is the one that had that char like that crazy charred wood, I think, right? Like this, it kind of blew off a little bit. It's no longer in that old fashioned territory. Now it's more like cinnamon bun without the icing and like maybe a rum drizzle on
Ooh,
it.
yeah, cinnamon
Well, I
bun's a
know,
good
yeah,
call.
but who wants it without the icing, right?
Yeah,
So this
I'll get into it.
yeah.
You'll get into it more, but the number two char is only the only weird thing for what this is. Usually it'd have a heavier char based on what it is for at least what we've seen from this country for single malt.
And not even just single malt, but even like for its native spirit, which I mean,
Yep,
love it or hate it, I do feel that it kind of pigeonholes it a little. Like,
totally.
so like when you say number two char, you can it kind of alludes to like where this is from. It's certainly not Scotland, but this one is like it's from the it's from the western coast of the USA. um, I will disclose it before we talk a little bit more about that, but this is from the Copperworks distillery in Seattle. And I think we've had other Copperworks stuff in the province, hadn't we? Is that
Yeah,
a
we
Yeah,
craft
do.
that's a craft work thing, right?
Yeah.
yeah. Craftworks
Yeah.
brings it in.
But I don't remember if I've had their single malt. I think I've only ever had like their American whiskeys. I'm not sure.
Well, and also the barrel they use is a first fill, obviously like a virgin oak.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it
Number
says
two char is definitely low. Like you're we're I think we're getting a lot more of that those sort of like bitter notes and those green notes coming through. I think Cam said that it was a little bit gin-like for him.
right,
Uh,
right.
Yeah,
and that's probably coming from the barrel going beyond the char and the toast layer,
mhm.
uh, and getting into the unaffected parts of the cap, the stave.
Mm. Well, keep in mind, Sammy, that like first fill also like means not virgin oak, right? So this was probably an ex bourbon still, but had something in it before this, right? That I don't think it specifies so much, but
Oh,
I imagine they're still using like Scottish terms for these.
yeah, that's a good question actually, or point, and it could go either way because they say first barrel, and usually the society will tell us what it was in it beforehand.
That's true. Yeah, that's yeah, that's a good point. Now I don't know. Huh.
I'll
Oh,
have to ask Kelly if she can get some clarification.
what I was mentioning with the char though, I appreciate the use of number two and even number one, which is not that common. Char is like who uh it was Buzzard's Roost that was using number one char, I think, on some of their I can't remember now.
For a finish, yeah. And they
And
did some just toasted barrels, yeah.
I think it just added these cool layers that just didn't saturate it with that heavy char that it was just so awesome.
Mhm.
I kind of wish that more distilleries would play around with that, but yeah, it is what it is. Americans like to do things intensely, and that's what we're getting here, I think.
Yeah.
Well, not here,
What
sorry, in
what
other
are
stuff.
what are the differences? Like what are char number one, char number two, that type of like do you
So
know what those are?
the toasting level refers to the how far the toasting goes into the stave, from what I recall. And the char level has essentially to do with how long the you have direct fire on the staves or the barrel itself on the inside of the barrel. So number four char, you're getting into like that what they call number four or five. Number five, they'll say it's crocodile char or alligator char, where it's got like the deep grooves, and it's almost like you've got the charcoal that's stuck to the inside of the barrel, where you have these massive like creeks and valleys and mountainous areas, so you have more surface area, and that's usually what they go for with when they use an SCR cask as well. Is they want that heavy char so that it's almost acting like a filter for the young whiskey at the same time. With a number two char, it's not going as deep into the wood. It's not creating all those sort of creeks and valleys in the wood itself, and it's probably a little bit smoother on the inside and not as easy for the whiskey to penetrate. But when it does penetrate, it easily goes past that char level or the toast level as well.
Yeah, and the residual heat past that boundary of char also turns certain compounds into the vanillins or like the
Yeah.
compound that literally tastes like vanilla that you can extract into into the spirit itself. But I think the heavier the char, if I remember, you get less of those because those compounds get destroyed. At least the ones that are more readily available.
Yeah. Yeah. Will Crisp, he just summarized my 2 minute explanation of that in 4 words really well. So
Very, very efficient.
yeah. Thanks, Will.
I guess I didn't
Just to
give an age
fill,
on. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're gonna do.
no, I was going to say, just to fill in the blanks, the cask number is 143.3, and it is a 3-year-old.
Yep. I do really like on the finish right now on that one. It's got this great sort of like marmalade toast, I think Sean said on this one, and also fuzzy peach candies on there big time on the finish as well.
Totally. Yeah, I was just taking my
Yeah,
second
that's a good one.
my recip, and man, the peach like comes out like a lot. It should almost come with a warning on the bottle, like let's sit for half an hour.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know why. For me, it still tastes like Armagnac, yeah, than a
Yeah.
whiskey.
I think it's I was thinking about it. I think that's maybe the texture on there because there's something that about it that reminds me of Armagnac as well, where you get that sort of like how licorice has a specific texture that hits your
Mhm.
tongue. Like this and Armagnac have that similar texture of licorice to me, where there's almost like some left behind on your tongue afterwards. And that's what my mind went to when you said that, Sammy.
Honestly, retasting this, it's jumped back up in place for me. Like I didn't like it as much the first time going through. I actually really, really like this now. Like this, that palette
Yeah,
is
same.
that's killer once it sits.
Yeah, same with me. I like it better the second time around.
Wow,
What's the
love it.
price on this?
Yeah, this guy is 213. Perfect. Yeah, and I guess I also say this is the second Seattle distillery that we have. The first one being the Westlands, but I don't know how many Westlands we get from the society or if any. But I guess they're enjoying a wee bit of a renaissance in Alberta right now, which is kind of nice. People are starting to ask for it. Maybe it's because they're pushing really hard. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Seattle got tired of doing coffee and beer. Now it's doing whiskey.
Coffee, beer, and pretentiousness.
That's right.
All right, so up to number 6 here. So this guy's also a bit of a youngin, and it's also from a distillery from one of them their big cities for them big city folk. And there's only two what they consider like big cities there in Scotland. So if anyone can maybe guess what this one is, you got two guesses. Graham gets it for the win. All right. Yeah, the Glasgow distillery. We've had a cup. I think there's yeah, so this is actually it's not sister cask, but this is kind of a follow-up purchase to the previous one that we had there. What was it? This is the yeah. What was it called again? It was something dark and stormy.
I think it was just dark and stormy, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Oh, maybe it was just dark and stormy. Yeah, yeah. Um, Fun fact with this one, you guys can make all your BC friends completely jealous if you have one, because this is an Alberta exclusive. There was such a small allocation with this one that they actually had to split up the outturns, and so BC is actually getting a different dram being poured than us. But this guy, so that's considered in the lowlands. It's a second fill barrel at 61%, and it is 5 years old, which makes sense because Glasgow is about 5 years old, I think.
Cask number
Yeah,
is
it's not much older than that.
156.
Oh yeah,
Cask number,
156.2.
yeah.
Thanks, Cam. There's so many things to go over. I'm gonna forget the last one too. So I appreciate you chiming in with it, reminding me.
And price is all that's left, Sean.
Yeah. This guy is 190. You know what? Honestly, like there's so like, I don't have with all the other regular tastings we do, there's so much less that I have to like periodically reveal and it's definitely a different kind of tasting. I mean, it's fun. I actually really enjoyed being able to revisit these things twice and kind of go through them. But yeah, I guess I gotta remember to like maybe tie strings on my finger to make me remember.
Well,
That's
this
one of
is what
those
we
old
invite Cam for. This
yeah,
he
yeah,
keeps
I
us
guess.
on the tracks.
I definitely appreciate it. This one it's smelling a bit more creamy on the nose. I remember the first time going through, I did make comments about how it smelled like an obviously young peated malt, and it still does for sure. But I'm getting a little bit more like kind of I don't know if it's from the barrel or what, but a lot more of those creamy like custard whipped cream kind of tones on
Yeah,
it. Like
this is going like full on into Ardmore territory right now for me, where it's like smoky breakfast again, where it's got the pancakes and the oatmeal and the bacon and the syrup, like all you put it all in the blender and there's a whiskey.
yeah, it's a good point. I like some of that farminess has faded away, like some of the more
Hmm.
poignant tones of it, but it's still like it still retains some of that nice like meaty. I still am convinced that it's mainland peat.
So the farmyardiness, that's pretty common in a Lecheg, isn't it?
Yeah, it's and Ardmore.
And
And
Ardmore,
Ardmore
right?
Yep.
and Benromic and
Yep.
Brora, sometime
Lafroig.
Long Row, Springbank. What else have we got? I don't know.
Yeah,
Those are
Lafroig
the
gets
main
there for
ones.
me a lot of the time too. Sometimes Kalila.
That's interesting that there's more farminess on like a Lafroig. I get that, like I personally get a little less, and I usually attribute it to their peat fields being like right there. But
Mhm.
yeah, and but yeah, Khalil a little bit. Yeah, you're right.
You like this one, Sean? Because you're not a big
Yeah,
fan of Lecheg, are you?
I'm not a fan. I've still not come through to Lecheg. I will admit that I've definitely recently tasted a handful of Ardmores that have prompted me to buy them, which is not something I ever thought
Mhm.
I'd say. But yeah, there's definitely some there's more notes on this that are more akin to an Ardmore that I do enjoy than
Well,
a
like,
Lecheg that I don't. Yeah.
yeah, I would agree with that too. Like, this needs like a quart of motor oil dumped into it to become Lacheg still.
Yeah, drop it on the ground and then sop it up with a mop and then try it again.
That's right. That's right. It's just missing something, guys. It's still a
Oh,
pretty
that's what
cool
it was.
brand though.
Th I think, well, Chris, it said dark and stormy creme brulee. Maybe that was the
Yeah.
word. That was the name of, right, right.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was
that
that
was
that
their
cool,
bottled and bond bourbon from Scotland, essentially.
right. That was a cool one. Yeah. And that sold out very quickly too.
Mhm.
Hmm. All right. So I did give the price on that. Everything. Okay. You got all the info on that one you need. I'm gonna go to the final one.
Yeah,
So
this is
nothing
going to
to,
be fun to revisit.
oh my gosh. Yeah. So nothing to see here, they say. And again, you don't like this one, and we can just give all the bottles back to Rob and Kelly and me, probably because I actually quite like it. So this was a bottle that was or a cask that was bottled up for the Isla Whiskey Fest, I believe they said, right? So Fagiel bottle?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. For the 2023 Fagiel. Um, we we're pretty lucky to get these. Like it seems like we've been getting them almost every year, and I'm pretty happy about that. Unfortunately, I never bought any of the previous ones, but so there is what is it, 10 distilleries you could choose from, and it's pretty obviously not well, it's obviously not, well, I shouldn't say obvious. It's not Ardenho. It's not Port and Trewin.
Yeah.
It's almost certainly not Kilhoman.
Yeah.
And then there's
It's
two
not
that just
cheesy
don't.
enough to be Bruichladdich or Port Charlotte.
Yeah, there's none of those. There's three distilleries that just outright don't sell casks anymore. So it's not going to be Bowmore, Lagavulin, or Lafroig. So we're getting down to two. Anyone got any guesses for those last two? Oh, I guess Ardbeg it's if it was, I guess Ardbeg doesn't sell a lot of casks either. All right. Anyways, so it's Kalila, the big granddaddy of them all in terms of production and volume, at least. And this guy's got an appreciable age on it too. It's a 15-year-old. So yeah, like I said, we got like three out of these four had some like pretty appreciable age. So 11 years out of those 15 were in ex-bourbon, and then 4 years was in a PX hogshead. Not totally unlike that new ager on a hog that we had not too long ago. Although, funny enough, they gave us a long list of sister casks, and that wasn't among them, and I was kind of surprised to see that. So 53.445 is the numbers on this, the digits, and it comes in at $255, which is more similar to that new ager on a hog. This guy was a sister cask to, I'll just read the names off instead of the numbers. The vigorous and concentrated intensity, that was in 2020. The smoky multi-minerality from 2020 as well.
That
Gauze
one's
and
good.
I don't remember that one. And Gauze and Effect, which I must have missed because I love that name. Also 2020. Intense Seaside Experience, which I do remember from 2021. And then Raiders of the Flossed Ark, which I don't remember either. I'm not paying enough attention to these outturns. And then one last one, Tart and Trickled, which I do remember. Wow, that was a big parcel of casks. I'm really glad they kept this one aside. And if this was in 4 years in PX, I'm imagining that they probably recast these like almost as soon as they bought them.
Yeah, you're probably right, just to get some differentiation.
Yeah.
Because we've had a lot of really good Kalilas, and Will Christie kind of, I think, pointed out why. He says, I haven't met a Kalila I haven't enjoyed. They're all bangers. I don't think Kalila honestly does bad whiskey. As much as I'm not a fan of their parent company, is like the most consistent distillery out there when it comes to what you get from them. And it takes to whatever cask you put it in. It's almost like Glen Murray like that, where like you can have it in next bourbon, you can have it next sherry. It doesn't matter. It'll just do really well. Um, and I think that's why they probably put a bunch of these in different types of casks, is because I talked to for a long time in other society tastings where we get an ex bourbon Kalila, and the through note for all of them was it tasted like or it smelled like the salty rim of a lime margarita, where it's like coastal and salty, but you got this citric note that goes along with it, and really shellfishy at the same time, I guess, too. Some of them went into sort of mezcal-like notes. Some of them went more tequila-esque in their youth. But when you put it into sherry, you still get a bit of that, but it's almost like you dumped a bit of like Harvey's Bristol cream into the margarita at this point. It's really cool whiskey.
Kalila and Talisker are two of these distilleries that dispelled the myth to me that like the seaside maturation is what gave saltiness to the drams, because like their
Yeah.
whiskey isn't even, because their whiskey isn't really mature. Most of the whiskey is not matured anywhere near the coast. So
Yep.
that can't really be it, right? I know that was such a big talking point like when I was learning it, when I was learning everything in the early 20 teens there or 2010s there. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding is like they don't even barrel them on Isla. Like they're just it goes back over on a tanker truck on the Kelmac ferry,
Mhm.
essentially to the mainland.
That's risky business right there with how much variation and choppy seas they get exposed to on that damn ferry.
Yeah. That was I remember being on the ferry back from Isla to the mainland, and that was a fun ride. That's the only time I've seen Andrew slightly green. Uh, was that one, and I was just luckily I don't get seasick very much, so I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't get that green with that kind of stuff. Yeah, the ferry out was awesome. The ferry back in, it was towards the end that the storm just started coming in.
Oh
That
wow.
was like late, so like October 2022, there was like a hurricane that hit Halifax and Nova Scotia, and then it moved overseas, and it was just catching up to us as we were leaving Isla. So we were kind of like we, and then it kind of like halted for a while because it kind of gave us like a semi okay night in Campbellton, but we had to kind of still drive away from it.
Wow.
That is that. So I have to be honest. Like so, this one. So New Ager on a Hog had that old and dignified label on it. I don't
Yeah.
think this one does, but honestly, I think it kind of deserved it. Like it does have that nice kind of like old school whiskey tone to it. It's not too fresh. It does have like a very similar palate to that one. I'm kind of surprised they
Yeah.
didn't do the dark red banding on it.
I agree. And it's like a lot of old whiskey, especially old whiskey that's cast finished, tends to get into these really cool tea-like notes on the nose where it's like steeped in style, and this goes in that direction too in a really nice manner.
Do they have a rule about what they call old and dignified? I mean, this is 15 years old. It tastes old and dignified, but does that
I
not
kind of
fall
wonder
into
if
their
it would have.
category?
I wonder if it just didn't get that because it wasn't a FSCL bottling, so they just went with the green for that
Oh,
iconic green color. But that's just me kind of spitballing.
Or maybe like why put two signifiers of
Yeah,
it being awesome instead of just one? Yeah, yeah.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's fair. I asked Kelly about it with the New Age on a Hog because it wasn't just was it because we had two and I think it was the same month that were red banded, and both of them were sub 20 years old. And I was asking her about it, and like, because most of the stuff that we got in the with the red band was being more than that, and she said it is explicitly about the flavors, like, and what it
Yeah.
tastes like rather than the age. Yeah.
Well, and just to piggyback on this, I don't know if this is meant to be talked about yet, but the reason there's only 6 new drams in the February outturn is there's going to be a 7th bottle release this month, but it is far too expensive to put it in a regular outturn. It would have it, it would have put up the price of our tasting probably by a factor of 5 or 6. Uh,
Ooh, ooh, nice
and
tease. I didn't know that.
some people have tried this bottle. It was in our Uber calendar for the whiskey calendar this year. Um, and it's I won't say what it is if you haven't tried it, but it's a banger. It's killer, but it's going to be costly.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think. I guess like in case you didn't, maybe you don't have the sheet in front of you there. This last bottle, the Fagio bottle, it is limited to one per customer. So just as a heads
Yeah.
up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did add the links for all the bottles. For those of you that just want to look at all the bottles again, you can see the link there for all 7 of them, including the gin. That's the returner at the sale price. Keep an eye out for this weekend. There will be a couple other society bottles that are at 20% off as well, including at least one old and dignified, maybe 2. The second one might have already sold out though, so we'll just have to wait and see. But thanks to Sean. Thank you very much for taking over hosting duties on this one. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, of
We'll have
course.
to have you in on these more because it's fun to have you in here, man.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. Thanks. That was great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I think also like because I for anyone who's in like an eager beaver two at the sale, that pricing should be live in like 3.5 hours, like 3 hours and 40 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah, the gin is now. The other stuff will probably go live tomorrow night, I'm guessing. I haven't talked to
Oh, I
Andrew on
thought
that, but that's usually how
oh, I
they do
thought
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
Thursday. I think the email said Thursday. No? Am I
Yeah, I
wrong?
think Thursday is when it starts, but we'll see what
Oh, okay. Yeah.
just
Well,
keep on hitting refresh. Yeah.
yeah. Just sit it by the computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you to Cam and Sammy for joining us as well. And sorry I couldn't be here for the whole thing, but I'm glad I got to take part for the second part here. Cool.
Yeah.
great,
Okay, guys.
great
Yeah.
tasting, guys.
Yeah, I got to take off. But have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Take care, guys.